How's it going, New World? Sethphir here, and welcome back from the holidays. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and got all of the presents and were able to spend time with family and friends, because that's what it's all about. So we are finally back on New World and back on track. And over the holidays, I had a conversation with a friend, and we were talking about changes we would like to see in New World. And I thought for a second, about everything I wanted to see in the game. And my friend said, well, these are a lot of great ideas, but who knows about them? Do the developers know about them? Do the people know about them? I'm sure tons of people have great ideas, but maybe they're not being pushed forward. So I wanted to go ahead and make a video today to give voices like mine and others a place to be heard so that we can kind of help improve the game together. So this is going to be top 10 changes for New World. These are going to be things to improve the game, and I'm going to break it down into two sections, which is going to be the top 5 easy changes, right? Changes that are easy to implement, and then top 5 changes that are hard to implement, like in-game changes, very big changes. And in addition to that, I want to know what you have to say, because I think a lot of players have great ideas. So can you comment down below and let me know if there's anything on this list that you think is a good change or idea for New World that is not going to be stated, right? So excluding my opinion, my personal opinion, I want to know what you guys have to think. So go ahead and let me know, and tell me what you're thinking. What do you have in mind? So let's go ahead and jump into the top 5 easy changes now. And this is going to be starting with number 1, guild size increase. Currently the cap is 100 guild members. Some of the content demands 50 guild members show up at a given time. That's half the guild roster, which can be quite difficult. I think if you're going to demand 50 players to show up for a war or something like that, then you probably need to increase that guild cap size a little bit. I know a lot of guilds that own territory and guilds that play actively, like competitively, they have multiple companies, and it's a little frustrating because the guy from company 2 wants to be in company 1, the guy from company 1 wants to be in company 2, and there's this weird perception of which one's the main company, when really they're all the same. We're just limited by the guild size. So I think increasing this cap to at least 200 would be a great idea. Maybe it was put in place because they were afraid of Zerg guilds gathering up too many members, but I think at this point in the game, I think 200 is a fantastic cap. You could even consider going a little bit further than that, but something a little more than what we have would definitely be welcomed. I think the next change I'm going to talk about, number 2, is going to be detailed stats within the game. And we have some of this already, right? Like if I mouse over here, it'll tell me what my physical damage resistance is and my elemental damage resistance and the breakdown of each type. And that's great. But we need more of that. We need details. Details are very nice in MMOs because it will tell you a lot of things that you want to know. I want to know, what is my total healing bonus? What is my total crit chance? What is my total resistance to angry earth, right? I want to know these things because these are statistics that you're putting on the gear that I have to mathematically add up in my head, and that doesn't make sense. I should be able to click on a details section and have all that done for me. The game knows this information already, it's just not displayed. So I think this should be an easy fix as well, and I think tons of us would like to know what our luck percent is, instead of having to do math for every piece, plus the pearls, plus the bags and the trophies, and we have to look up what all. Just let us know in game what everything is, right? And that's going to be a pretty easy fix, and I think that will make a lot of people happy for sure. Moving on now is going to be number 3. I thought about this one, and I think that you could spice up the current game by adding rare spawns in dungeons. That would be like you do a dungeon, right? And it's kind of the same thing every time. But if you add a rare spawn or a chance of a rare spawn in there that maybe has better loot or increased odds, maybe he's challenging and has a timer before he disappears or something like that. Like thinking kind of like loot goblins in Diablo or something along that lines, or even a challenging enemy that would give loot and just make it to where like break up the monotony of the dungeon, right? Like I'm doing the dungeon over and over. Okay, great. Now I got this rare spawn all of a sudden. Oh, quick, let's get this guy before he goes away or he does something. I think it would be a nice little change, and it could be as simple as dropping a monster into the area and just adding a nice little loot table for him, like a nice surprise, like, ooh, we really got lucky and we found this awesome monster. That's really cool. I think that could be an interesting idea for the game. The next one's going to be number 4, which is going to be storage. And I'm going to go ahead and hop down here and show you exactly what I'm talking about. But I was trying to do this earlier because I was gathering some ingredients together to craft. And I was like, oh, I need this certain craft mod, right? And I'm looking through the area and I have to search each one of my storages one by one, right? Like this little drop down box. I need to go here and I need to search Eastwood. So like if I'm looking for something like Animus, you know, I have to keep searching. Oh, look, there's one here in Windsward. I have to keep dropping down to each of these things. It's really tedious and monotonous. Can we just search everything, right? Like if I type in the word Animus or whatever it is I want to find, can you just show me where that item is located? All of it, like in any settlement. Like I could just say monarchs or weavers, like it's down here on the list, so I don't have to keep going through each tab and scroll down on top of that just to find something, right? Like that's a pretty easy fix in my opinion, because you already have a search function. It already includes these windows. It's just as simple as adding them to the frame. So like when I go to Animus, search Animus, I want to see all the Animus that I own and in what town they're in specifically, right? So I think that would be a good change as well. So that'll be number 4 on my list, and that's going to bring me to my last one, which is going to be number 5, and that's going to be the item pickup window, right? We've all done it. We've looted a chest and we see 5 items. We see like the most common stuff is at the top for some reason. So it'll show you like a gem and a couple of potions, and you're like, what did I just get in that chest? I have no idea. You could have got a legendary, but it won't tell you, right? Like it just doesn't seem to calculate items past a certain amount on the window, and it's not very like informative whether you got a good drop or didn't. I noticed that the game has certain sounds when you pick up items, like it'll make like a jingle or a certain ring, but it does it on weird stuff like health potions, and I don't understand the point of that. Like I want that jingle or that ring when I get a legendary. Like I want it to pop up and be like, hey, you got a legendary. This is a good item. Or purple or whatever that may be. Like, hey, you got something of value. I want to see that information displayed at the top instead of just displaying like the first 5 items that were generated in the box, or 4 items or whatever that may be, and leaving out all the details of everything else. So that would be a very nice change coming in here. So that's going to be my top 5 easy changes, and now I'm going to go on to top 5 end game changes, and these are going to be for the longevity of the game, for the health of the game, and this is all stuff that I'm sure many players want to see. And I know we have some great changes coming with the mutations in January available on the PTR, so that's going to be phenomenal. That is a step in the right direction, developers. That is really, really good, because we need end game content. We need end game changes. So I'm going to give you a few more changes that you may or may not be working on. I don't know, but I'm going to throw them out there and let you know what people want, or at least what I want, and you'll be able to read the comments as well and see what people want is in addition to that. So first on my top 5 end game changes list is going to be ranked PvP, small scale PvP. 50 versus 50 is fine and all, but it doesn't, in my opinion, it's hard to get 50 players together and be inclusive to a lot of the population. What happens in wars is some people get picked from the clan, and that's about it. There isn't many people able to sign up and join a war. There's not a lot of people that are able to sign up and join an invasion, because they will also just get booted out for people within their own guild or people that they know are particularly powerful. This sort of thing happens, right? So outside of that, there's nowhere to go and queue up for a game that's like a competitive match or something with statistics that matter. I know we have Outpost Rush, but it's not ranked, it's just random. It doesn't care if you have healers or do not have healers. It doesn't care if the enemy team queued with 2 5 stacks and you just have a bunch of random players. It doesn't take any of that into account, right? It just slaps you in there and is like, this is a fair match. Everything's fine here, right? So we need ranked small scale PvP. What am I talking about? Arenas, we need 5 versus 5, 3 versus 3, maybe 2 versus 2, but this game is probably more towards 3 versus 3 and up because of how hard it is to kill a actual healer in certain settings. So I think 3 versus 3, 5 versus 5, maybe even 4 versus 4, as weird as that sounds, could be a good bracket system for this game, and being able to do that cross-realm by just queuing up would be fantastic for the long term. I think that ranked outposts would also be a great idea, but keeping it more towards that small scale, like, maximum 20 people. Like, we don't want to go above that because that gets too complicated. It's too hard to get 50 people to show up and do something like that, especially spontaneously. When you have like a set time every day, it's a little better, but I think we should shy away from that. And that'll bring me into my next topic, which is going to be number 2, which is going to have a similar number problem, right? This is going to talk about raids. Raids would be endgame PvE content. Everyone knows what this is. It's a staple in all MMOs. We need raids. I know mutations are coming, and that's a good 5-man content for dungeons, but we need actual raids where you can take your guild and a lot of people from your guild and progress towards something hard and get really powerful gear, right? We need powerful PvE encounters. But I think that raids should be somewhere in the realm of 20 to 25 players. If you think about the course of WoW history and other MMOs, they did start off really high, like Molten Core, for example, being 40 players, but eventually they toned down to like 20, 25, and I think the reason for this is because it's very hard to maintain a roster with that many players, especially at a higher level, and getting it down to a more select elite few is very nice. So something in the range of 20, 25, that could be good. Maybe 15, maybe 30. I don't know. You play around with it. You know what's right with your game, right, Amazon? But 50 it's a lot of people. And it's really cool to see a big battle, but it's really hard to organize that. And I think you can get that same big battle feeling with 20, 25 than you can with like 50. And I think it'll be a little bit better because a lot of guilds will be able to participate and they won't have to eat each other alive just to gather up enough people to be able to, do the actual raid, because that's what's happening in the game right now, right? Big guilds are cannibalizing smaller guilds to remain big. And maybe that's an MMO problem in general, but I think it's set by the number size. Like, if you have it to 20, 25, then everybody will be able to make a guild and then build up their own teams, and you'll see a lot more competitive competition, in my opinion, going into the future with that. So that's going to bring us to number 3, and we're going to talk about the itemization for just everything in general, right? Like, I'll find a piece of gear, and my piece of gear will have something really weird on it. Like, it'll be like Angry Earth or something even super useless. Like, let's take a look at a shield. Sure footing. You move 20% faster when blocking. Who wants this? No one wants this. Anybody that plays the game understands that that's irrelevant. There's no point in time in which you would ever consider this stat. It doesn't make sense. In PvP, it doesn't make sense in PvE. It's just actually wasted. And an additional stat here is hated. Hated is also a wasted stat. You generate 13% more threat. That's irrelevant, because when you taunt something and you're doing proper damage, none of that matters. Lowering or increasing your threat, you have this mechanic in the game, but none of it matters because the tank can always instantly take threat. The tank, there's no punishment even for not taking threat right now, right? Like, oh, you pull off aggro, ooh, who cares? Like, your healer's just going to heal you to full, right? So maybe all of these stats are like alluding to something down the line that may be where you want to implement the system. And I could see that too, because you have gems like lightning damage ward, but there's no monsters in the game that do lightning damage besides the Siren Queen, maybe, but that's very rare. And it's just not something that you would really want to stack. So all the items have these traps on them. So when you're trying to create a good item, like you're trying to roll a good item, you get something silly like, oh, hatred on it. Well, that sucks. And even things that contradict themselves, right? Like, you'll create an item with a taunt gem on it, but then it will have lower threat. Or you'll have a tower shield that has lower threat on it, or something strange, right? Some strange combination that makes no sense. And it's making it harder for people to get items, right? Like, they want to get good items, and they want to like work on other sets. I know that's the way for me, right? Like I want to complete a whole set and then work on another one. I want to have a full healing set. I want to have a full tanking set. I want to have a full dex bow set to have fun with. But it's so hard to get those pieces because there's so many trap stats that waste your rolls and your resources and are completely irrelevant to how the game is played right now, that it's so hard to get any good stats or desirable stats on items. So I think that the way that needs to be changed should be better. And I'm going to tag on something extra too. I'm going to add in named items, right? There are a lot of named items in the game, and the named items are ranging from decent to very, very, very bad. And they're like 600 legendary, but with all the wrong stats, right? It looks like somebody just picked stats out of a hat and threw it on there. When you get a named item, it should feel powerful. It should be good. Like, I should want that named item, to be fair, right? As opposed to a random rolled item. The named items need to have a better stat line that suits the game more appropriately at the moment. Like, people need to understand that when you have a great axe, you know, you want crit chance, you want crit damage, you want all this stuff, and there's just no named items with that in the game. There's like maybe one, but the other named items are just completely off topic. Like, it'll be like a great axe that has I don't even know, just weird stuff like stamina recovery or life steal when you kill something or something odd. And I understand that people want different combinations of gear, but a powerful piece of loot should be powerful. It shouldn't just have its stats random rolled and there be like 20 named items and one of them happens to be good because that random roll stats was a decent-ish combination, but still a far cry from what it would be considered a best in slot item. Okay, so we're going to move on to number 4 now, which is going to be luck. Can we trust luck? I don't know, actually. I know we had that issue a while back where we had amulets that were giving negative luck for harvesting, and that I think that was confirmed by a dev. I've experienced a lot of stuff, especially since PvP flaggings come into the game. I have a lot of tinfoil hat theories. It feels very weird to farm items while PvP flagged. In my experience, I've been getting some better loot more consistently, like 600 legendaries unflagged. Sometimes people are talking about putting on luck gear making a big difference. Some people are talking about the trophies and they're not working properly, and when they upgraded to major trophies, they're not seeing better yield results. It's all a question, right? And I'm not saying any of these are correct, by the way. I'm not super tinfoil hatting, and I'm not saying, hey, this is, you know, all these things are broken. I use luck myself. I put it all on, and I just play the game with luck, right? And I try to go for the most luck possible. But it does feel very odd, and it's hard to track. And since we did have the instance of luck being a negative value before, it's very hard to trust it. So luck is a weird setting. I almost feel like instead of luck increasing the rarity of items, like making it have more perks, like going from a purple to a legendary, and also luck seems to, from what I've been told, not even affect named items. Like, you're talking about like a drop from like Will of the Ancients from Lazarus. Supposedly that doesn't even bother with that. So it's very misleading and weird on how it works. I know developers had made a lot of posts and says, hey, it's supposed to work like this. But I don't, like, does it work like that? I'm not sure. And the game doesn't lend itself to explain that very well at all. So it almost feels like instead of luck increasing the rarity of an item, maybe luck should just increase the amount of items you get so that you can actually see, hey, instead of getting 5 items from this chest, you're right, I got 7 or 8 because I had more luck. And then I could just roll the statistics from there. But maybe that's a giant overhaul because you're talking about certain items having a drop chance, and I think luck was meant and designed to boost the roll threshold, but it feels like you're getting in a weird roll threshold sometimes when you hit certain areas of luck that's pushing you away from rolling in a category of items that you want. And the game, and I'm not sure the game knows what you want. I think it just throws items into a category, right? It throws items into a category and it's like numbers 90,000 through 95 are winner items, but all these items may or may not be good, and it's just determined by what the whoever put that number category there thinks is good, when the real item that is actually good and what you want is in that 80,000 bracket, but you can't get there because you're capping over it or something. I don't know. It's a whole big thing, right? And the more I try to explain this, the more I even confuse myself, right? And that's a bad thing. So I think luck needs to be redesigned, reevaluated, changed in some way. That's the moral of this, right? Like, it needs to feel impactful, and we need to be able to trust it and feel like it works and it does its job of what it's doing. So this is going to lead me on to number 5, which is going to be the last one, which is the key system. We have this whole, like, you got to get the chisel, you got to get the fragments, you got to get the orbs. Honestly, it's too much. Making these, I keep up with it every week, but it's a lot. Like, doing these portals, the portals is the worst part. Getting the fragments is the worst thing. You have to spend, I don't know, many hours farming these portals, and it's not an activity that you really want to do because the rewards from the portals are not great. The items are just not good for endgame, period. I've barely ever seen anything good come from those. On top of that, it takes a massive group to do these portals, especially at 65. You need at least 10 people. I would say 5 you can maybe squeak by, but they're pretty challenging in terms of the corruption damage that comes out, especially if you're not prepared with the potion and everything. But I get it, you should be prepared, and that's fine. But it just takes too long to farm these corrupted slivers and turn them into the legendary corrupted stone. And even with the changes, right? It was even worse before because you needed like 20 to make the keys. That was crazy. That was actually crazy. But it's gotten better, but the system is... it's weird, right? Like, the only in-game activity is the dungeons, but then you can only do so many per week, which means that you have to buy from other players, which just means that you're, when you have gold, you're just taking advantage of other players that, don't have gold and want to sell their cooldown because that's the only way for them to get gold, right? They're just like, well, shoot, I'll just sell my orb and then I can actually buy something. But then they're losing out on getting the increases and doing the end-game content, and the whole system's just kind of wonky. And I think that the mutation system will definitely help with this because it's going to give you an extra avenue. I know they mentioned you could do the mutations multiple times per week, so that's going to be really nice. But getting away from this key system might be a good thing. Or making it just easier, right? Like, easier in the amount of time required to farm, because this is the biggest choke point right here. Developers, the corrupted slivers, fragments, and all that stuff. You're forcing us to do like 50, 100 portals just to get enough to make these Lazarus keys, and that's not exact math. I'm sorry if that's an over exaggeration, but it feels like eternity, right? Playing the game, and I'm just like, oh man, I have to do portals today. Oh, that's rough. Okay, let me get on the grind. And I'm sitting there for hours just grinding away at these fragments, hoping that I get lucky and get big fragments, and hoping that my stone cutting gear procs me an extra so I could save like 3 hours of my time. And it's just a little wild, so that definitely needs to be changed. Okay, so that's going to cover it for the top 10 changes in general. So there were top 5 easy changes that I think could be implemented very fast, and then top 5 end game changes that I would like to see for the longevity of the game and for the end game of the game, because I love New World, I love this game, and I know a lot of people do. We want to see it do well and succeed, so this is my effort to bring that feedback. And of course, I want to know what you have to say. I know tons of people have great ideas, and you might even have better ideas than I have. I want to know what those are. Please comment down below, share your thoughts with me. Let's make New World better, and that's going to be a good thing for everybody in the long term. At least I think so. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell if you have not already. We also have a join button down below if you wish to become a member today, a Discord in the description link, as well as my Twitter and some other socials if you want to follow on there. And that'll be it for this video. We'll see you in the next one.